Dr. Kevin Martinez had been watching the deep space sensors for 6 hours straight. Something was wrong with the readings, but he could not figure out what. The Council's monitoring station picked up signals from across the galaxy, and today, those signals were telling a story that made no sense. "Computer, run the scan again," he said to the machine. "Focus on Sector 77 Alpha," the screen filled with numbers and charts. Kevin studied them carefully. 3 star systems in that area had gone quiet in the past week. Their normal communication signals had simply stopped. At first, he thought it might be equipment problems or solar storms. But now a 4th system had gone silent. Kevin worked for the Galactic Council as their head science officer. His job was to watch for natural disasters that might threaten Council. Worlds, supernovas, black holes, and other space events could be dangerous if people did not see them coming. But this was different. Stars did not just disappear. "Dr. Martinez," called his assistant, a young Zephyrian named Lighton. "I am getting some very strange readings from the outer rim." Kevin walked over to look at Lighton's screen. The readings showed energy patterns unlike anything in the Council's database. They seemed to move through space in ways that made no sense according to known science. "Send a probe to investigate," Kevin ordered. "I want to know what is causing these readings." 2 days later, the probe stopped sending signals. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Patricia Stone stood in the command center of Earth's defense headquarters. She had been following the Council's request for humanity to disarm, but something about the whole situation bothered her. "Admiral," said Colonel Ben Parker, walking into the room with a tablet in his hands, "we just picked up a very weak signal from deep space. It looks like a distress call." Stone took the tablet and read the message. Most of it was broken up by static, but a few words came through clearly. "Ships ... dark. They came back ... Where did this come from?" Stone asked. "The signal is very old and weak. It traveled a long way to reach us. Maybe from the Council space, but we cannot be sure." Stone felt a cold feeling in her stomach. Earth had been debating the Council's demand to give up all weapons for 3 months. Many people thought it was a good idea. Peace was better than war, they said. But Stone had spent her life in the military, and she knew that sometimes peace was only possible when good people were ready to fight bad ones. "Double our patrols," she ordered, "and send a message to the Liberty. Tell Commander Morrison to stay alert." Back on the Council station, Jake Morrison was learning more about galactic society than he wanted to know. The beings here had created something amazing: worlds without crime, governments without armies, and people who had forgotten what it meant to be afraid. "It is beautiful," Ambassador Carter said as they watched a group of young aliens playing together in one of the station's parks. "Look how different they all are, but they get along perfectly." Jake nodded, but part of him felt worried. "They are like children," he said quietly. "They have never had to deal with real danger." Captain Bell joined them at the viewing window. "I have been talking to some of their ship captains," he said. "Their idea of a crisis is when someone disagrees about which planet to visit next. They have no concept of actual threats." "Maybe that is a good thing," Carter replied. "Maybe we could learn to be like them." Before Jake could answer, alarms began ringing throughout the station. The peaceful sounds of the park were replaced by confused voices and the sound of running feet. Jake had never heard alarms on the station before. High Counselor Veltar appeared on screens throughout the area. His glass-like form was flickering with colors Jake had never seen before. "All beings report to emergency stations. We have lost contact with 3 core worlds. Investigation teams are being prepared." Jake felt his military training take over. "Carter, we need to get back to our ship. If something is happening, we want to be ready." They ran through the halls of the station, past confused aliens who clearly had no idea what to do in an emergency. The station had safety systems, but no real defenses. Why would it need them in a galaxy at peace? When they reached the Liberty, Jake immediately went to the communication center. "Patch me through to Earth Defense Command," he ordered. Admiral Stone's face appeared on the screen a few minutes later. "Morrison, what is your status?" We are safe for now, but something has the Council very worried. They have lost contact with several worlds. Stone's expression grew dark. We picked up a distress signal 2 days ago. It was very broken up, but it mentioned ships and death. I think something dangerous is happening out there. What are your orders? Jake asked. Stay where you are and keep watching, but be ready to leave quickly if you need to. And Morrison, I am not following the Council's disarmament order until we know what is going on. 2 hours later, the first investigation ships began returning to the station. Jake watched from the Liberty's bridge as they docked. The crews that came off those ships looked terrified. Many were injured. All of them seemed to be in shock. Dr. Foster, one of the human scientists on the Liberty, managed to talk to a Crystalline Empire scout who had seen whatever was out there. It was like nothing in our records, the scout told her through a translator. Ships that seemed to eat light. They moved wrong, like they were swimming through space instead of flying. And when they attacked, the scout stopped talking and just stared at the wall. What happened when they attacked? Dr. Foster asked gently. They drained the energy from everything. Ships, stations, even the people. They left nothing but empty metal floating in space. Jake felt his blood run cold. He called Admiral Stone again. Admiral, we have a problem. Something is attacking Council worlds. The descriptions match old Earth legends about space pirates. But much worse. Stone was quiet for a moment. Morrison, I want you to start moving toward the edge of Council space. Do not leave yet, but be ready. If whatever this is comes toward the station, you get our people out of there. That night, Jake could not sleep. He walked through the Liberty's halls and thought about what they had learned. The Council had built a beautiful society based on peace and trust, but they had also made themselves defenseless. The next morning brought worse news. 12 more worlds had gone silent during the night. The Council was calling emergency meetings, but Jake could see that they had no idea what to do. They had not fought a war in 2,000 years. They did not even remember how armies worked. Ambassador Carter found Jake in the ship's mess hall, staring at a cup of coffee. The Council is asking for our help, she said. What kind of help? They want to know if Earth has any records of ancient threats. They think this might be something their ancestors fought long ago, but they have lost most of their military history. Jake almost laughed, but it was not funny. They want us to help them remember how to fight because they forgot how to defend themselves. It looks that way. Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see Council ships preparing to leave the station. They were beautiful vessels, built for exploration and science. But they had no weapons, no armor, and crews who had never seen combat. Carter, I think we are about to learn why the Council really wanted us to give up our weapons. It was not because they thought we were too violent. It was because they were afraid we might be the only ones left who know how to use them. As he spoke, the station's alarms rang out again. This time, the message was different. All ships prepare for immediate evacuation. Long-range sensors have detected unknown vessels approaching the station. Estimated arrival time, 6 hours. Jake looked at Carter. Get everyone back to the ship. We are leaving now. But the Council is about to learn that sometimes peace is only possible when someone else is willing to fight for it. As the Liberty prepared to depart, Jake watched the peaceful beings of the Council try to organize their evacuation. They moved slowly, unsure of what to do. Many seemed unable to believe that anyone would actually attack them. Jake had a terrible feeling that they were about to find out just how wrong they were. Captain Danny Brooks watched the darkness of space through the main window of the UES Defiance. 12 human ships had jumped into the Kepler system 3 hours ago, following reports of strange vessels in the area. What they found was worse than anyone had expected. Sir, I am picking up debris on long-range sensors, said Lieutenant Amy Richards from her station. It looks like the remains of Council ships. Danny walked over to look at her screen. The computer was mapping pieces of metal and other materials floating in space. The debris field was huge, covering an area larger than Earth's moon. How many ships? Danny asked. At least 20, maybe more. They are completely destroyed, sir. Nothing left but scrap metal. Admiral Patricia Stone's voice came through the communication system from her ship, the UES Vengeance. All ships, we are approaching the location where the Council lost contact with their investigation fleet. Stay alert and keep your weapons ready. Danny had served in Earth's Navy for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like what appeared on his screens. The enemy ships looked wrong in ways that hurt to think about. They seemed to bend light around themselves, creating holes in space that made his eyes water. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, called out Lieutenant Chris Walker from the weapons station. Multiple bogies, configuration unknown. The alien vessels moved through space in ways that made no sense. They flowed like liquid, changing shape as they traveled. Tentacle-like arms reached out from their hulls, grabbing pieces of debris and pulling them inside their ships. Admiral Stone, are you seeing this? Danny asked. Confirmed, Captain Brooks. These things are not like anything in our databases. They appear to be feeding on the remains of the Council ships. Dr. Elena Foster, the fleet science officer, was studying the readings from her position on the Vengeance. Admiral, I am detecting massive energy absorption from the alien vessels. They seem to be converting matter directly into power. Understood, Doctor. All ships, prepare for combat. These things destroyed an entire Council fleet. Do not underestimate them. The first alien ship turned toward the human fleet and began moving in their direction. It did not look like it was flying so much as swimming through space. More tentacles appeared along its hull, reaching out toward the human ships. Incoming energy beam, shouted Walker. All hands brace for impact. The alien weapon hit the Defiance's shields and made the entire ship shake. Danny grabbed his chair to keep from falling. The lights flickered and several control panels sparked. Shields down to 60%, reported Richards. That thing packs a serious punch. Danny opened a channel to the whole fleet. All ships, open fire, let them taste human weapons. The human ships were built for war. Unlike the beautiful, flowing designs of Council vessels, they were covered in armor and bristling with guns. The Defiance alone carried enough firepower to level a city. Nuclear missiles streaked through space toward the alien ships. The enemy vessels raised energy shields that glowed like purple fire. The first missiles exploded harmlessly against the barriers. Their shields are adapting to our weapons, Walker reported. The energy output is being absorbed and redirected. Danny smiled grimly. Then we stop using energy weapons. Switch to kinetic rounds. The human ships opened fire with railguns that shot chunks of metal at incredible speeds. The alien shields, designed to stop energy beams, offered no protection against solid projectiles traveling at 1/10 the speed of light. The first alien ship shuddered as tungsten RODs punched through its hull. Strange, glowing fluid began leaking from the holes. The ship's movement became erratic, like a wounded animal. Direct hit, Walker called out. Enemy vessel is venting atmosphere and showing signs of system failure. But the aliens were learning. Fast, the damaged ship's shields began changing, becoming thicker and harder. Other enemy vessels started moving in unpredictable patterns to avoid the railgun fire. Admiral, Dr. Foster's voice came through the communication system. I am detecting rapid adaptation in the enemy shields. They are evolving their defenses in real time? Admiral Stone's reply was calm and cold. Then we evolve our attacks. All ships, implement Hunter Protocol. Danny knew what that meant. The Hunter Protocol was something Earth's military had developed for fighting enemies who could adapt to their weapons. Instead of trying to overwhelm the enemy with one type of attack, they would use everything at once. The human fleet spread out and began a coordinated assault. Nuclear missiles mixed with railgun rounds and laser beams. Chemical explosives, followed by particle weapons. Every time the alien shields adapted to one type of attack, they were hit by something completely different. The alien ships tried to respond, but they could not adapt fast enough. Their shields would stop the missiles, only to be pierced by railgun rounds. They would harden against kinetic weapons, only to be burned by laser fire. Enemy formation is breaking up, reported Lieutenant Mark Davis from the scout ship UES Ranger. They are falling back toward the jump point, but Admiral Stone was not finished. All ships pursue and destroy. We cannot let these things escape. To report our capabilities. What followed was not a battle in the traditional sense. It was a hunt. The human ships chased the retreating aliens across the system, picking them off one by one. The aliens were faster and more maneuverable, but they had no answer for human tactics. Captain Nicole Green of the destroyer UES Hammer used her ship's smaller size to get close to an alien vessel and detonate nuclear charges directly against its hull. Major Tony Martinez led a squadron of fighter craft in kamikaze runs against enemy ships too damaged to defend themselves. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from Council Station Alpha, reported the communication officer on the Vengeance. High Counselor Veltar is requesting an immediate report. Stone's image appeared on the screens of all human ships. Put him through. The glass-like form of Veltar appeared, crackling with static from the long-range transmission. Admiral Stone, we are monitoring your engagement with the unknown vessels. The Council formally requests Earth's assistance in defending our core worlds. Danny watched his Admiral's face. She looked tired but determined. Understood, Counselor. But we do this our way. No restrictions on our weapons or tactics, no Council observers telling us how to fight, and no questions about our methods afterward. The silence that followed seemed to last forever. Finally, Veltar spoke. Agreed. The Council grants Earth full authority to defend galactic civilization by any means necessary. Dr. Foster's preliminary report came through 20 minutes later. Admiral, I have analyzed the wreckage of the enemy vessels. These creatures are not just predators, they are apex predators. They have evolved specifically to hunt advanced civilizations. Explain, Stone ordered. Their energy absorption systems are designed to feed on the power sources used by spacefaring species. Their shields adapt to directed energy weapons, which most advanced species prefer because they are clean and precise. Their movement patterns suggest they expect their prey to fight in organized formations with predictable tactics. Danny understood immediately. They evolved to hunt civilized species that fight fair. Exactly, Foster confirmed. Every civilization they have encountered has followed similar patterns. They achieve spaceflight, develop energy weapons, establish peaceful societies, and then become easy prey for these things. Admiral Stone's voice was grim. And humanity? Humanity is an anomaly, Admiral. We never stopped fighting. We never gave up kinetic weapons. We never learned to fight. Fair. These creatures have no defense against human warfare because they never encountered anything like us before. Danny looked around his bridge at his crew. They were tired, scared, and covered in sweat from the battle, but they were also proud. They had just done something no other species in the galaxy could do. They had beaten the unbeatable enemy. Sir, Lieutenant Walker called out. Long-range sensors are picking up more enemy contacts? A lot more. They are massing near the galactic core. Admiral Stone's orders came through clearly. All ships return to base and prepare for extended combat operations. We are going to need everything Earth can throw at this fight. As the human fleet prepared to jump back to friendly space, Danny took one last look at the debris field they were leaving behind. The remains of alien ships mixed with the wreckage of Council vessels. A reminder of what happened when civilized species met uncivilized enemies. The Council had spent 2,000 years building a peaceful galaxy. It had taken humanity less than 4 hours to prove that peace was only possible when someone was willing to fight for it. Danny just hoped they could fight well enough, and long enough to save the galaxy from itself. General Marcus Kim stood in the command center of the mobile battle station. UES Retribution, and watched 300 enemy ships gather at the edge of the Nexus Prime system. The largest fleet of Void Hunters ever seen was preparing to attack. The heart of galactic civilization. Sir, enemy formation is holding position at the outer marker, reported Captain Nicole Green from her scout destroyer. They have been sitting there for 6 hours. No movement, no communication attempts. Marcus. studied the tactical display that showed both fleets in 3 dimensions. The enemy outnumbered the combined human and council forces 5-1. Red dots representing Void Hunter ships covered one side of the screen. Blue dots showing human vessels and green dots for council ships looked tiny in comparison. Admiral Stone, what do you think they are waiting for? Marcus asked. Admiral Stone's image appeared on his screen from the bridge of the UES Vengeance. They are studying us, General. These things have been apex predators for millions of years. They are trying to figure out what we are? Dr. Elena Foster had spent the last 3 weeks studying captured Void Hunter technology. Her research team had discovered things about the enemy that changed everything humanity thought about warfare. General Kim, Dr. Foster's voice came through the communication system. I have completed my analysis of enemy behavior patterns. These creatures fight like apex predators in every sense. They expect their prey to follow evolutionary rules. What kind of rules? Marcus asked. Every species that reaches space follows similar development patterns. They start with chemical rockets, develop fusion power, create energy weapons, and eventually abandon kinetic weapons as primitive. They form peaceful governments and reduce their military capabilities over time. Marcus began to understand. So, the hunters evolved to fight predictable enemies. Exactly. They have strategies for dealing with energy weapons, organized fleets, and civilized warfare. But humanity developed differently. We kept our primitive weapons. We never stopped fighting each other. We are not what they expect to face. Captain Rebecca Davis of the heavy cruiser UES Fury added her own observation. Sir, I have been watching their formation. They are arranging themselves like they expect a formal battle. Line formations, honor guards, command ships in the rear. It looks like they think we are going to fight fair. Marcus smiled grimly. Fair fighting was for species that could afford to lose. All ships implement Doctrine Charlie, he ordered. Remember, we are not here to be honorable. We are here to win. The battle plan Marcus had developed went against every principle of civilized warfare. Instead of forming battle lines and exchanging fire at long range, the human fleet would use tactics that had been banned by galactic law for centuries. The first phase began when Captain Tony Martinez of the destroyer UES Striker received his orders. Striker, you are authorized for Kamikaze Protocol. Take out their command ship. Martinez looked around his bridge at his crew of 30 volunteers. Every person on the ship had agreed to this mission knowing they would not survive it. Understood, General. Striker beginning attack run. The small destroyer broke from the human formation and accelerated toward the center of the enemy fleet. Void Hunter ships moved to intercept, but Martinez had planned for that. His ship carried no weapons except for one massive nuclear warhead built into its reactor core. All Striker crew, this is the captain, Martinez announced. It has been an honor serving with you. Remember, we do this so others can live. The Striker smashed through the enemy formation, taking heavy damage but continuing toward its target. When Martinez reached the Void Hunter command ship, he manually triggered his reactor overload. The explosion destroyed both ships instantly and damaged a dozen others. The perfectly organized enemy formation dissolved into chaos as the surviving ships tried to understand what had just happened. Phase 2, Marcus ordered. Biological warfare is authorized. Major Alex Turner commanded a squadron of assault pods launched from the UES Retribution. Each pod carried a team of Marines and a cargo of biological weapons designed specifically to target Void Hunter physiology. Remember, Turner told his troops, these things are part machine, part living creature. The bioweapons will corrupt their organic components and make their technology fail. The assault pods landed on enemy ship hulls and burned through the armor with cutting charges. Turner's Marines stormed inside and released clouds of engineered viruses that ate away at the aliens' biological systems. The Void Hunters had no defense against biological warfare because no civilized species had used such weapons in thousands of years. Their adaptive shields were useless against microscopic attackers that worked from the inside out. Sir, Enemy ships are showing signs of system failure, reported Lieutenant Gary Phillips from the communication center. Their organic components are breaking down, but the Void Hunters were learning. The remaining ships began adapting their shields to filter out biological agents. Their formation started to reorganize as they figured out human tactics. They adapt fast, Admiral Stone observed. We need to hit them with something they cannot adapt to. Captain Davis had an idea. General, requesting permission to use psychological warfare. Marcus had heard about human psychological warfare, but never seen it used in space combat. Explain your plan, Captain. These things are predators, but they are also living creatures with nervous systems. If we can overload their senses with signals they cannot process, we might be able to confuse or disable them. Do it! The UE's Fury began broadcasting on all frequencies at once. The transmission included recordings of human death metal music, the sounds of Earth's most dangerous predators, and frequencies designed to cause pain and confusion in Void Hunter neural systems. The effect was immediate. Enemy ships began moving erratically as their crews struggled to deal with the sensory assault. Some vessels stopped responding to commands entirely. All ships, press the attack, Marcus ordered. Hit them while they are confused. The human fleet charged into the disorganized enemy formation. Railguns fired tungsten rods through enemy hulls. Nuclear missiles detonated in clusters, creating massive explosions that damaged multiple ships at once. Laser cannons burned holes through alien armor. That had not been designed to stop primitive, light-based weapons. The Void Hunters tried to respond, but their normal tactics were useless against human warfare. They would raise shields against energy, weapons only to be hit by chemical explosives. They would adapt to kinetic attacks only to be poisoned by biological agents. Enemy fleet is breaking up, reported Captain Green. Multiple ships are retreating toward jump points. But Admiral Stone was not finished. All units, pursue and destroy. We end this threat here and now. The order shocked the Council observers who were monitoring the battle. High Counselor Veltara's transmission crackled with distress. Admiral Stone, surely now that the enemy is retreating, we can attempt to negotiate. Perhaps we can find a peaceful solution. Stone's reply was cold and final. Counselor, negotiation is what got you into this mess. These things will just regroup and come back stronger. We finish this. What followed was the complete destruction of the Void Hunter fleet. Human ships hunted down every enemy vessel across 3 star systems. It was methodical, ruthless, and absolutely effective. No prisoners were taken. No mercy was shown. When the last Void Hunter ship exploded in a ball of fire and radiation, the galaxy fell silent. The battle had lasted 8 hours. In that time, humanity had done something no other species thought possible. They had completely eliminated an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for millions of years. Sir, Lieutenant Phillips reported, I am receiving surrender offers from Void Hunter forces in other systems. They are requesting terms for ending hostilities. Marcus looked at Admiral Stone's image on his screen. Admiral? No terms. No surrender. We hunt down every last one of them until they are extinct. This ends today. The systematic elimination of the remaining Void Hunter forces took 6 more weeks. Human fleets jumped from system to system, tracking down every enemy ship and base they could find. It was genocide on a galactic scale, carried out with the efficiency and determination that only humans could manage. When it was over, the Void Hunters were gone forever. The galaxy was safe, but at a price that would haunt civilized species for generations to come. They had been saved by monsters who fought like monsters. And now those monsters were the only thing standing between civilization and the darkness that lurked between the stars. Ambassador Lisa Carter stood in the council chambers 6 months after the last Void Hunter ship had been destroyed. The Great Hall looked the same as it had during her first visit, but everything else had changed. The peaceful beings who once floated gracefully through the air now moved with careful, measured steps. Many wore what could only be called armor, though they tried to make it look decorative. The fear in their eyes was unmistakable. Not fear of some distant threat, but fear of the humans sitting in the front row of the assembly. High Counselor Veltar called the session to order. His glass-like form was more solid than before, hardened by necessity and knowledge of what lurked in the dark spaces between stars. We gather today to address the question of Earth's membership in the Galactic Council, Veltar announced. While the Council is grateful for humanity's actions during the recent crisis, certain concerns have been raised about human integration into galactic society. Lisa looked around the chamber. Representatives from 47 different species watched her with expressions ranging from gratitude to terror. 6 months ago, they had been naive children playing in a safe galaxy. Now they knew the truth about survival. Admiral Patricia Stone sat beside Lisa, wearing her new title of Supreme Defense Coordinator. The report in front of her contained information that had kept most Council delegates awake for weeks. Earth's true military capabilities were staggering even by human standards. "The numbers speak for themselves," said the representative from the Crystalline Empire, his voice shaking slightly. "Earth maintains active military forces numbering over 50 million beings. They possess weapons capable of destroying entire planets. Their industrial capacity can produce warships faster than most species can build civilian transports." Dr. Elena Foster, now serving as humanity's chief military advisor, stood to address the chamber. "Honored delegates, I understand your concerns. But consider this fact: the fleet you saw destroy, the Void Hunters, represented less than 5% of Earth's total military strength. The silence that followed was deafening. Many delegates looked like they might faint. 5%? Whispered a Harmony Collective representative. But that fleet had enough firepower to conquer half the galaxy. And yet, Foster continued, humanity used that power to save you, not conquer you. We could have taken control of Council space at any time in the past 6 months. Instead, we have been helping you rebuild your defenses." It was true. Human engineers had spent months teaching Council species how to build shields and weapons. Human tactical advisors had helped establish defense fleets around major worlds. Human soldiers had trained alien crews in basic combat procedures, but the Council members were still afraid. Captain Danny Brooks, promoted to Admiral of the Outer Defense Fleet, spoke next. "The question you are really asking is not whether humanity is too dangerous to join the Council. The question is whether you can afford for us not to be members." "Explain," requested Veltar. "The Void Hunters were not the only threat out there," Brooks said grimly. "Our deep space scouts have found evidence of other hostile species beyond the galactic rim. Things that make the Hunters look friendly. Sooner or later they will find their way here." The chamber erupted in worried whispers. The idea that there might be more dangers out there was almost too much for many delegates to handle. A representative from the Oceanic Collective raised a question that had been troubling many species. "What guarantee do we have that humanity will not become the very threat we have just escaped? You have shown us what human warfare looks like. How do we know you will not turn those weapons on us?" The question hung in the air like a poison cloud. Lisa had expected it, but hearing it spoken aloud still hurt. 6 months ago, humanity had been asking to join a peaceful community. Now they were being treated like dangerous animals that might turn on their handlers. Admiral Stone stood slowly. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of absolute authority. "You have no guarantee except our word. But you have our promise that as long as you do not threaten us or our allies, you have nothing to fear from humanity." "Your word?" The Crystalline Empire representative sounded incredulous. "You ask us to trust the word of a species that just committed genocide against an entire enemy race?" Stone's eyes went cold. "Yes, because that genocide is the only reason you are alive to question it." The brutal honesty of the statement sent shock waves through the chamber. Many delegates were still struggling with the concept that sometimes survival required terrible choices. Lisa rose to give humanity's final statement. She had thought about these words for weeks, knowing they would shape the relationship between Earth and the galaxy for generations to come. "Honored members of the Council, humanity did not ask to be your guardians. We did not want to be the species that everyone fears. We came here seeking friendship and knowledge. Instead, we found a galaxy that had forgotten the most basic truth of existence, that peace is only possible when good people are willing to fight for it. She paused, looking around the chamber at faces that showed fear, gratitude, and confusion in equal measure. You created something beautiful here. A civilization without war, without violence, without the need to look over your shoulder in fear. But you also made yourselves defenseless against those who did not share your values. The Void Hunters nearly destroyed everything you built because you forgot that not everyone in the universe wants peace. Another pause. The chamber was completely silent now. Humanity will accept the burden of being your protectors, not because we want to rule over you, but because someone has to be willing to do the terrible things that keep civilization safe. We will be the monsters that fight monsters so that you can remain the peaceful beings you want to be. The vote was unanimous, though Lisa suspected fear played as large a role as gratitude in the decision. Humanity would be granted full council membership along with the newly created position of Galactic Defense Authority. As the session ended, Veltar approached the human delegation privately. Ambassador Carter, may I ask you something? Of course, Counselor. Do you ever regret what your species has become? Do you wish humanity could be more like us? Lisa thought about the question carefully. Counselor, every human wishes we lived in a universe where violence was never necessary. But we have learned that wishing for something does not make it true. Someone has to stand guard in the darkness so others can sleep safely, and that burden falls to humanity? That burden falls to whoever is strong enough to carry it and moral enough not to abuse it. For now, that appears to be us. As the human delegation prepared to leave the council station, Lisa reflected on how much had changed since their first visit. Humanity had sought acceptance into a peaceful galactic community only to discover that their exclusion had been the very thing that allowed that peace to exist. Now, Earth would stand guard at the edge of known space, maintaining fleets that other species could not stomach building, training soldiers that civilized beings could not bear to become, and making decisions that peaceful societies could not bring themselves to make. The galaxy was safer now, but it would never again know the innocence of believing that civilization had evolved beyond the need for warriors. That innocence had died with the first Void Hunter ship, killed by the harsh reality that the universe did not care about good intentions. Human ships now patrolled the dark spaces between stars, watching for threats that peaceful species could not imagine. Human soldiers trained on 1,000 different worlds, preparing for wars that civilized beings hoped would never come. Human scientists developed weapons that moral societies would never dream of building. The galaxy had spoken through diplomacy for thousands of years, creating a beautiful civilization based on trust and cooperation. When humanity spoke through firepower, that galaxy had gone silent, not just from fear, but from the sobering recognition that sometimes survival required monsters to fight monsters, and humanity, it turned out, were very good monsters indeed. In the vast darkness of space, human defenders stood watch, ensuring that the light of civilization could continue to shine. They carried the burden of violence so others could enjoy the blessing of peace. It was not the future humanity had dreamed of, but it was the future the galaxy needed. And perhaps in the end that was enough. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship. The metal floor was cold under his boots. He looked at the big screen that showed stars and planets far away. Another red dot had just turned black. That meant another world had died. Jake had been in space for 20 years. He had seen wars and peace. He had watched new planets join the big group of worlds called the Galactic Council. But he had never seen anything like this. In 6 months, 17 different worlds had just stopped talking. No messages. No calls for help. Just silence. The ship Jake commanded was called the UES Vanguard. It was not the biggest ship in the human fleet, but it was fast and strong. Jake's crew trusted him. They had been together for 5 years now. But today, even Jake felt scared. "Captain," said Lieutenant Amy Clark from her seat. She was young, maybe 25 years old. Her job was to talk to other ships and listen for messages. We just lost contact with the Korvax worlds, too. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. The Korvax were made of crystal. They were very smart and very old. Their technology was much better than human technology. If something could destroy them, what chance did anyone else have? How many does that make? Jake asked. 41 star systems, sir, Amy replied. Her voice was quiet. All gone in the last month. Jake walked to the big window that looked out into space. Stars filled the darkness like tiny lights. But now, some of those lights were going out forever. He thought about the billions of people who had lived on those worlds. Families with children, scientists working on new discoveries, artists making beautiful things. All gone on Earth. Admiral Lisa Kane walked through the halls of Terra Station. This was humanity's newest and biggest space station. It moved around Earth like a small moon. From here, human leaders made decisions about war and peace. Today, those decisions felt heavier than ever. Lisa had gray hair and serious eyes. She had fought in 3 wars before becoming an admiral. She knew how to make hard choices, but this was different. This was not a war between people who wanted different things. This was something that wanted to end all life everywhere. Admiral Kane, called Dr. Ryan Foster as he hurried down the hall. Ryan was a thin man with glasses who studied alien life forms. He always looked worried, but today he looked terrified. You need to see what we found. They went to a room full of computers and screens. Ryan pressed buttons and showed Lisa pictures. From the dead worlds, each picture showed the same thing. Cities that looked perfect, buildings that were not broken, roads that were clean but no people, no animals, no plants, nothing alive at all. It's like someone came and took away every living thing, Ryan said. But they left everything else exactly the same. We found dishes still on tables. Books opened the pages people were reading, but no trace of who lived there. Lisa studied the pictures. She had seen war zones before. She had seen planets destroyed by bombs and weapons. This was different. This was surgical, precise, like a farmer picking fruit from trees. Have we found any survivors? Lisa asked. None, Ryan replied. Not a single living being on any of the dead worlds, but Admiral, there's something else. Something worse. Ryan showed her a map of the galaxy. The dead worlds were marked in red. Lisa could see a pattern. The destruction was moving in a straight line toward the center of the galaxy, toward the oldest and most important worlds. Toward Earth, meanwhile, on a research ship called the UES Discovery, Commander Steve Parker was studying the remains of what used to be a busy trade route. Steve was a soldier who had become a scientist. He understood both war and discovery. Right now, he wished he understood neither. His ship was small but fast. It carried the best equipment humans had for studying space and the things in it. Steve's job was to go to dangerous places and learn what happened there. He had done this job for 10 years. He had never found anything as scary as what he was looking at now. Commander, said his science officer, Dr. Kate Johnson. Kate was smart and brave. She had volunteered for this mission even though everyone knew it was dangerous. The readings don't make sense. Steve looked at the numbers on her screen. According to their instruments, something had passed through this area of space recently. Something big, but it had not moved like a normal ship or creature. It had moved through space itself like it was swimming through water instead of flying through emptiness. What could do something like this? Steve asked. I don't know, Kate replied. The energy patterns are unlike anything in our databases. It's like whatever did this exists partially outside normal space and time. Steve felt cold despite the warm air in the ship. Humans had been in space for only 50 years. They were the newest members of the Galactic Council. Most alien races thought humans were primitive and lucky. Maybe they were right. Maybe humans were too young and stupid to understand what was happening, but Steve had spent his life studying the unknown. He knew that sometimes the best way to understand something was to think like a human, not like an ancient alien race. Humans were good at seeing patterns that others missed. They were good at fighting when things looked hopeless. Back on Earth, in a deep underground facility, scientists worked day and night to understand the threat. The facility was built inside a mountain in Colorado. It was secret and safe. Only the most important people knew it existed. Dr. Rebecca White led the team of researchers. Rebecca was one of the smartest people on Earth. She understood how the human brain worked, and how thoughts could affect the physical world. Her work was so advanced that even she did not fully understand it yet. The quantum signatures are consistent across all attack sites, Rebecca told her team. Whatever is doing this operates on frequencies we've never encountered before. It's like they exist in dimensions we can't even measure. One of her assistants, Dr. Bill Taylor, raised his hand. Bill was young but very smart. He asked hard questions. That made everyone think better. Dr. White, what if we're looking at this wrong? What if these aren't attacks? What do you mean? Rebecca asked. What if this is harvesting? Bill replied. What if something sees all the life in our galaxy as a crop that's ready to be collected? The room became very quiet. Everyone understood what Bill was suggesting. Somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, something ancient and powerful had decided it was time to harvest all the life from their galaxy. And it was working its way systematically through every world, taking every living thing. Rebecca felt sick. If Bill was right, then every person, every animal, every plant in the galaxy was just food waiting to be collected. And the harvesters were getting closer to Earth every day. As night fell on Earth, people in cities around the world looked up at the stars. They did not know that their planet was next on a list that had been written before their son was born. They did not know that something unimaginably old and hungry was coming for them, but in secret facilities and on ships scattered across the galaxy, humans were beginning to understand the truth. And despite their fear, they were also beginning to plan. Because humans had one quality that had kept them alive through ice ages and wars and disasters. They never gave up. The galaxy faced extinction. But Earth's power had not yet touched down.